Hi everyone, Snowflake Dan here with you. Today we're going to cover how to connect to an external API using Snowflake notebooks. So let's get into it. So the first thing first, you'll see here I've got a tutorial on the page. This tutorial is actually linked in the video description. So if we go into this straight into it, what we'll want to do is first download the notebook we're going to actually use later on in the tutorial. So we'll simply click the link and download the notebook. The next thing we'll want to do is some setup inside of Snowflake. So I don't have any databases or schemas in my Snowflake account, so we're going to just create them here. So I'll click the drop down, click the copy button, and we'll switch over to Snowflake. So the first thing I want to do is go to projects, then go to worksheets, and we'll create a new worksheet. So I'll paste my code in there. We can select all of it and then hit run. Now what this will do is it'll use the sysadmin role or the lead developer role. It'll create a database, a schema called API, then it'll create a warehouse called developer, then it'll set the context for what we'll do later on. Awesome, so if we do a quick refresh, we'll notice we have a raw database now and an API schema here. So for the next step, what we'll want to do is set up an external access. An external access basically allows us to connect our Snowflake account to that API or have a conversation with that API. By default, your Snowflake account is locked down, so it can't talk to anything. So we have to set up these rules to allow our Snowflake to have that conversation. So we'll copy that code over, head back to our worksheet, and we'll go down a few lines, we'll paste that in, and then we'll create it again. Well, my apologies. We'll hit run on that. Great. So now we've created it. Today we're going to be using the Open Weather Map API and get the temperature of London today at the current time of this video. So if we head back to the tutorial, the next step is to upload that notebook to our notebooks in Snowflake. So if I switch back to our Snowflake accounts, and head to notebooks, where before we were in worksheets, we'll go to notebooks. And as I do this, I just want to call one thing out. If you create any kind of notebook inside of Snowflake, it's done with the role that you've done creating it. So here you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm doing it as account admin. If we wanted to switch that, we can switch to a different role when we create it. So anyone who has this role will be able to see this notebook. So we'll simply click the little drop down because we're going to import our notebook today because we've already created it. I'll select that notebook and I'll click open. So we'll give it a name, connect to API as our demo kind of talked about. Then we'll select the API as the schema. We'll select the warehouse that we want, in this case the developer one we've created. The next thing is you get an option to run this on a warehouse or run this on a container. In this demo today, it's a very, very simple API. So we're just going to run it on a traditional warehouse, where if you have a more complex API where maybe it's downloading a file, you could run it on a container so that you actually get a file system. And really it'll run in a Docker container so you can install any kind of package from PyPI. So we'll simply click run or create. And then we're booted up into the notebook itself. So before we hit the run all button, we'll want to enable this notebook to use that external access. So we'll simply click the three dots, go to notebook settings, click on external access. And I've got a few of them here already. For example, I talked about PyPI or if I wanted XFTP access. But in this case, I just want to select that Open Weather Access integration and click Save. And now the notebook has been enabled to do so. If you run it first on accident, feel free to enable it and then refresh your page. But since we didn't do that, we'll just simply click Run All. And so the notebooks of themselves will actually have their own Python environment. So in the background, it's actually installing some of the packages that we need. But for this example, we don't have any packages. We're just simply using the normal Python ones. But if we walk through each step that it's already run, so it shows how quick it is we have our API key, we have our city as of London, and then we have our API request that we're using through the requests library built into Snowflake. So now we can see we're able to get that data back from it. We got the weather here, and we have a whole bunch of other information. If we wanted to save this data to a table, all we would do is create a table called London, and we'll select from this temporary view that was created. So here we printed the data in Python, and then we created a data frame and created a temporary view in Snowflake so that we can reference it later. So we called it temp, then we referenced that temp later on. And then now if we did a select star, we could see that data from that table. And if we switched over from our databases on the left side, went to raw API, we could see that table of London. And if we click into it, we could even do a data preview of that data and see that our data has been saved to this column called data. So this has been an introduction to connecting to APIs via notebooks in Snowflake. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Bye-bye.